All right. So today, for the first time ever on video, I'm going to go over the specs for what's in this car and how it's put together. I know a lot of people have asked, so I'm going to do it today, and I'm going to do this as a members only video. We're going to try to do a members only thing. So people want to follow along with that, I would greatly appreciate it. It does help fund some of this stuff. And if that's not your thing, I understand. Of course, if it's not your thing, you didn't hear this. So anyway, follow me through the intro, and I'm going to go over as much of everything as I can possibly can without forgetting something. In my mind, I may forget something as I can about this build. Y'all hang in there.
I'd say it's a nut job.
All right, let's start up front here. And I'm going to try to do this in an order so I don't lose track. And if any time I overlook some detail that you think is important that I didn't think about mentioning, please drop it in the comments and I'll try to answer it. Let's start up here at the front. Even with this wheel and tire package here, this comes from Coker Tires wheel and tire package. It's a 4.5-inch wide wheel, but I have a really tall tire on it. Most people don't run a tire as tall as I do, but I do that for rollout. It basically, I can get a running start at the tree and I won't red light because I have so much tire down here that I can, let's say I can shoot to red light, but it takes the time it takes for this to roll through the beam, it gives me that little extra, so I get that running start at the tree. Got to take a slight advantage where you can. It has Moroso trick springs. It's still a stock style suspension. Moroso trick springs and 90-10 shocks up here. This is not a very over the top setup. I may at some point in time switch to a coilover setup, but right now this really works. Let's go fiberglass bumper, steel fender, fiberglass hood. So the only fiberglass on this car is the front bumper and the hood. We get into the engine. I'm going to try to remember everything and start at the bottom here. We start at the bottom. We have a Moroso 8-quart oil pan. It's a trick race oil pan. It has the little doors in it and everything to keep oil. When you get to the end of the track and you're slowing down, all the oil doesn't slosh to the front. It's got the little trap doors in it and all. So a pretty trick, kind of cool pan. At the time I bought that pan, it was around $400-ish. I've done a good job on this channel of kind of killing the myth that it costs a whole bunch of money to build FE. I've showed a bunch of FE motors how you can build on a budget and they run really strong. This is not a budget engine. It took me a while to put all these parts together, so you'll hear prices that are kind of all over the place, but it's because I started putting this package together several years ago, buying parts, putting them on a shelf, and sometimes hard to find parts get expensive. And people know it, so they got it, they want it, you know the deal. So oil pan, Moroso deep oil pan, the rotating assembly minus pistons, the cranking rods. The cranking rods are scat cranking rods. I don't really remember what that setup cost me. I want to say it was a weird situation. I wanted to make more cubic inches, so I knew I wanted to go with a scat kit. Unfortunately, at the time, all scat had available was just the crank. So I bought the scat crank. I really don't remember what I paid for it. It was somewhere around $1,000. I don't really remember for the crank. Well, there was no rods available, so I actually called every source I could think of in the country and had about given up. And I found a guy that had a set on a shelf in his store, and I actually had to drive about 3-hour road trip to go pick them up. And I want to say I gave around $650 for these rods at that time. Pistons were the easy part. DSS is a great company to deal with pistons. You can basically call them, custom order a piston, and within like 2 weeks, you have them at your door. So we custom ordered some pistons for this engine. They're DSS forged pistons. The combination that I'm running now makes about 12.5 to 1 compression. I used to run a lot more compression, but the cam company I went with to grind me a custom cam for this is Urson Cams. Urson told me basically I'm thinking old school technology, that you didn't have to have massive compression anymore. They told me they could actually make me more power if I would take some of the compression off. I used to run almost 14 to 1, but now I'm back to 12.5 to 1. And they explained it to me with modern cam profiles and all, that if I would give them a little bit more space in there, that they could make me more power. I'm no scientist. They just explained it to me. If I could give them more quench, more fuel in that cylinder, more room for it, that they could make me a cam profile that would make more horsepower. So we done that. I do not remember the specs on this cam. I'd have to pull out the cam card and hunt for it. It is a custom grind from Urson. It is a solid roller cam. Crower roller lifters in this thing. And we have some we have Smith Brothers push rods. I'm trying to remember everything. Smith Brothers push rods. We have some massive push rods. They look like your index finger in this thing. There's some massive push rods. And then we're running the rockers on it, or Harlan Sharp rockers. We're running Trick Flows cylinder heads. Now, because of the spring package that I needed, Trick Flow didn't offer the correct spring I needed, so we did have to change the springs, and it does have pack springs on it now. Don't know what the Trick Flow comes factory with, but we're running pack springs on it now. And then to top it all off, we're running a Trick Flow dual quad, or the Trick Flow tunnel wedge style intake, and it has on top of it 2 Edelbrock VRS 750 carburetors. If you're not familiar with VRS, they kind of look like a Holley style carburetor, but dyno after dyno after dyno has proven these carburetors are bolt on horsepower. So we're running dual 750s on top of the setup. Did I miss anything? We're running an adjustable timing chain set, of course. It's a dual roller timing chain, but it has the gear that you can adjust a little bit. You know, that's just common race car stuff. Really, it was getting to be common street car stuff. And we're running an MSD with a 6AL box. The 6AL box, mainly, I'm running that. That's the only electronics you'll find on this whole car, by the way, is that 6AL box. And I'm running it just basically, the only thing I use it for is the rev limiter. And we have the rev limiter set on this one at 7,200 RPMs. The car should make tremendous power. I have not finished this yet. I still got to run fuel lines, and I still got to run linkage for these dual carburetor setups. Before this, I've always ran a single carb. So it should make good power. We've bench raced it with a lot of folks that are professionals in the industry, and we've came up with some numbers that we believe this thing will make. I know what the 428 that I was in it before made, and I know how much power it made, and this is leaps and bounds above what that was. And the 428 still had cast iron heads. So this should be a tremendous motor. Now, if we back up what's behind that, directly behind that, we have a Ram Red Hat clutch, which is an adjustable slipper style clutch. I was running slipper style clutches for forever. I know a lot of people are kind of just now getting into them and talking about how great they are. We knew that for a long time. And if you're not familiar with a slipper style clutch, basically it has adjustments so you can adjust the base pressure. And it also has a place to hang counterweight. So the higher the RPM, the harder it clamps. You have to find a balance for launching a car like this, especially a car this heavy. This car is 3,700 pounds. You have to find a balance launching that car so you don't, clamp too tight and just blow the tires off or break something. But you don't want it slipping so much that it blows through the clutch either. You want just a little slip so that it doesn't smack and hammer those rear tires. We do that with a Ram Red Hat clutch. Let's back up a little more. Now, the transmission I use is no secret. If you go back, you will see a video on my channel, something along the lines of unveiling the secrets of a race transmission or something like that. That is the transmission I'm running in this car. It is a high tire 4-speed. It's made by Johnny High Tire right here in South Carolina. They look a lot like a Ford top loader. They're A lot of people have a misconception about what these are and how they work. This is not a clutchless transmission. It is a clutch assisted transmission. Uh, you can street drive this transmission. This is not one of those where it's find a beautiful RPM in it. Listen, from idle to 7,200 RPMs, I can take my finger and go click and it'll go right in the next gear. You never lift off the gas. You keep the gas pedal planted to the floor in this thing. Now, I keep my clutch pedal adjusted so it only moves about that much from the top. I just dust across the clutch pedal, just enough to release the pressure, the forward pressure off of the clutch in here, off the snout of the transmission, just enough to release the forward pressure. Boom, next gear. Boom, next gear. You hear this thing go down the track, it honestly almost sounds like an automatic. You hear wah is all you hear. You don't hear that no, you hear wah. That's all you hear. It is extremely fast shifting. The shifter has a short throw on it. It is an H pattern shifter, but it's click, click, click. I mean, it's just that simple. You just move just a little bit. It's just click, click, click. That's all there is to it, and it will go in every gear. Now, Johnny told me when he built this transmission for me, he said it'll go in any gear you put it in. So make sure at 7,000 RPMs you're going up, not down, because it'll go wherever you put it, and it's going to slide right in there. This transmission is amazing. I cannot describe how fast, how much ET this car picked up just by this transmission alone. Back when I was running a warmed over 390 in it, and I had a top loader in it, and I switched just to this transmission, I could show you back-to-back time slips, and it would boggle your mind at how much faster this car is with this transmission. Amazing transmission. I'm not sure what he charges for them now, but I think he's somewhere around the $5,500 for one of these transmissions. They may be more than that now. I don't know. I think he's in that neighborhood now. Very, very good transmission. And to mate the two together, of course, we have a Lakewood scatter shield. The drive shaft in this car is made by the great Mike Burtz. He's done drive shafts for a tremendous amount of race cars, including the great Gene Cromer. The Moonlighter drive shafts were all done by Mr. Mike Burtz. Mike Burtz has now retired. This may be one of the last drive shafts that he did. Amazing, amazing guy at drive shafts. This thing has a freaking telephone pole in it for a drive shaft. You're not going to hurt this thing. There is a formula out there that is used much above my head. It's the length, and you figure with the length and the RPMs you turn and the horsepower and the weight of the car and all kind of things, and they come up with a proper drive shaft diameter for a car. This one right here has a massive drive shaft in it, but it is an absolute phenomenal drive shaft. Mike Burtz makes one of the best drive shafts that I've ever seen, and I can't say enough about his work. It's got the big 35 U-joints in it. It's got a Mark Williams input yoke, or whatever you want to call it, yoke on the end of the drive shaft here, and 35 U-joints. And it's an amazing piece of art. This drive shaft it's a shame it's hidden under the car. And now to bring up the rear, we have quick performance axles. We have a strange 9-inch center section housing. I built all this myself. I just ordered the axles from Quick Performance. It's actually the stock housing under this car. The center section is from Strange. We have a big billet input yoke, for the front of it. It is running. You know what? I don't remember the name of the gears it is running, but these gears came from a fellow racer who changed, and these gears were used when I got them. But I've been running these gears for about 3 years now, and this car does run a 588 rear gear in it. Now, with all those specs, what does the car run? Well, with this engine, I don't know because I haven't made a pass with this engine yet. This engine should make a lot more power than the old engine that was in it. With the old setup that was in it, we could 150, 60 foot. Never quite got those 140s in the 60 foot with the old setup. With the old setup, we did run a 150, 60 foot, and she will run high 6-second passes. So what does it run with this motor? I don't know. But brother, I cannot wait to find out. She's probably going to be just a little freaking scary. So there you go, folks. There is the rundown on the specifics of Legacy. What exactly is in the car, how it was built, and, you know, what it ran. Now, I did add a 4-point bar to the car when I bought the car. A lot of people have seen that. It's basically a main hoop with the two kickers out the back. I done that so I could put a harness bar in it and put good belts in it. I have done a lot. Oh, and the springs out back. I didn't mention that. The springs out back are the true old school Mopar super stock style springs, where they're stacked more on one side than the other. I did that to take some of the twisting out on the launch, and it does help. It launches almost straight, but at the same time, it's still a little sketchy on the launch. So I think I'm going to have to break down and put some door bars in this car. But there it is. There's the breakdown. I hope y'all enjoy. I hope y'all will subscribe. If you have not, please subscribe, like, comment. Drop a comment if there's anything I didn't say that you'd want to know. Let's see how this deal works out. God bless y'all. Hope the Lord bless you more today than he did yesterday. To each and every one of you, I hope you have a wonderful day. Him be all the glory. We'll see you on the next one.
I'd say it's a nut job.